this is Kathy Nan's Herbal ABC, and I'm Kathy Nan. I'm called that because that's what my oldest grandson likes to call me, which is relevant because this series, this ABC that I'm going to be doing, is because I'm putting a book together for a little legacy to my grandchildren. They've all learned a little bit, whether they wanted to or not, about herbs with their nanny, and actually have shown quite a lot of interest, and it's lovely to be able to pass on my little bit of knowledge. And that's what this is also about, is that I have got quite a lot of knowledge put together now, and I don't want it to go nowhere. So yeah, I'm making the book for my grandkids and sticking this out on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to it. Yeah, it's about sharing my love of herbs and my faith in some of the remedies that we'll be talking about. And it's a two-way thing. So please feel free to comment constructive criticism where you think that maybe I've got something wrong, want to talk about it, it's fine. And also any ideas extending our communal knowledge about each herb. And I've chosen this format, quite a simple format, so that I stay on track, because I will veer off all over the place. Quite passionate about my subject, and I can always think of something to say. So what I'm going to do is, it's going to not be, if anything, fast-paced about this whatsoever. The technology, although I'm getting some excellent help elsewhere, my knowledge, I hope, will improve during the series. Yeah, so please don't expect anything too flashy. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the format that I've taken is this. So first, every time I will tell you the herb and its name, and also any Latin names or traditional folk names, whatever that I know of. Especially as some of the folk names tell us 10 times more than the Latin names do. Well, that's not true. I mean, if your knowledge of Latin is there, of course Latin names tell you something, but the folk names tell you something that's really inherent in our history, and it's a lovely way to learn about the herbs, is to learn why they're called what they're called. Then the first thing I'll go into every time after the name is the cautions. So I will say, to start with, if you have anything serious wrong with you, of course consult a professional practitioner. My main philosophy about all these herbs is that if you keep gently looking after yourself every day, then the likelihood of you falling for some of the more serious diseases is lessened. And also, if you do fall, then your recovery time is, I think, quickened, made faster. And the whole process becomes a little bit easier. I've seen my friends drop, and my system is such that I can kind of get anything and it doesn't hit me too hard. I mean, if, you know, I could get berry and die tomorrow, and that would make me sound like a hypocrite. But on a general level, my health is pretty good, especially for my age, and I'm on no pharmaceuticals whatsoever. Okay, I will own up to the odd ibuprofen, and I've had a very rough winter, which I'll tell you more about because it is again relevant because of the herbs that I use to look after myself. And that's what this is all about as well, really, is we can look after ourselves. We don't need to go running to the doctor for everything. We were taught that we should. But now, as most of you realise, these things are letting us down. And also the pharmaceuticals that are used, quite often the side effects are far worse than the original problem. So I mean, I've got a million reasons why I respect herbs so much. I'm going to stop now because if I do it too long, the technology doesn't like it. So I'm going to come back in a second. So this is the second part of my general introduction to Kathy Nant's Herbal ABC. So yeah, after the cautions, we'll go through the cautions quickly first. So I will go through these cautions at the beginning of every herb that I talk about, primarily just to get it over with, so that we can get on to all the good stuff. And also, you know, if you are in the category of people that this herb wouldn't be particularly good for, you can switch off if you want to. So I'll tell you straight up. I mean, the most sensitive people usually with the herbs are pregnant women, and I will always tell you if it's slightly dangerous for pregnant women to be using each herb. Yeah, and apart from that, most of the herbs I use are not dangerous. They will be dangerous to some people just about the same way as almost anything else is. If that's the case, I will tell you. Okay, so then I'll go on to the actions of each herb and their medicinal uses and what they can help prevent and sometimes cure. Quite simple, but it'll take some explaining for each herb. Then we'll go on to preparation, and the preparation that I'm using mainly is the preparations that I use, and because my lifestyle is quite hectic usually, these preparations take no time at all, and they take no great medicinal knowledge. Quite often teas, sometimes an ointment, sometimes a tincture, nothing very complicated. I mean, this will change. I've only had my most recent gardens a few years. And as, of course, they grow more mature, I have more herbs to harvest. And so my ambitions on how to use those herbs are going to change. But yeah, basically pretty basic preparation. And now the recognition of each herb. So the herbs I'm using are all either easy to grow, easy to find, or very cheap to buy in this country. This was my premise when I first started collating 5 years ago. Started to collate the knowledge I got from the course that I did, which covered everything, Ayurvedic and Chinese, which is all wonderful. And I can certainly chat about that sort of thing. But I wanted this first alphabet anyway to be totally about stuff that you can do yourself and that involve very little money. Mainly because I learned about herbs because I was a single mum of 3 kids, because the doctors was a long way away, because I had become disillusioned completely with the pharmaceutical industry, especially in the face of what the treatments they were trying to give me for my children. And that was when I genned up and started looking at alternatives, as did many, 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 many of us. I certainly wasn't alone. But I've kept at it. And being quite extreme in nature, I wanted to delve into exactly how we could look after ourselves. And I'm kind of spent the rest of my life doing that, really, more or less. So after recognition, which will help you with planting, but also, of course, foraging, we'll go on to how to grow these herbs, most of which I will have some experience of. I've been a gardener quite a lot in my life. And again, most of them are going to be pretty easy to grow because they're largely native plants, because that's my premise in doing this. After that, I go to permaculture. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart, and we will be going into why every plant that we look at is not only good for us, but it's also good for the soil and the environment in general, and the wildlife and the bees and everything. Permaculture is very important to me, and it's going to be an interesting little section of this series, I think. Then I'm going to go into the phytochemicals, and I will stutter and stammer because it's all the science, and I do know this stuff, but it nevertheless trips me up quite a lot. Just so that you know which constituents of each herb is the active constituents that are going to cause an effect. After that, I go to the magic, the folklore of the plants. We have to respect the fact that these plants have been around for a long, long while, and people all over the world have got very similar, actually, stories about each herb. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go in, at the very end, we'll go in and do a little tarot spread for the influence which each herb. Now, I started learning my herbalism from culpepper, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody who wants to study herbs to look at him. And he was very knowledgeable about the astrology of the herbs, which planet ruled which herb and that sort of thing. So I'll be going into that. And as I say, the tarot. So that's it. So that's what my Kathy Nan's Herbal ABCs basically going to look like. So hi everybody, it's Kathy Nan's Herbal ABC, and today we're on D for Dandelion. I'm redoing this in a friend's house because it got lost in the wash. So here we go, it's Dandelion, which is, the Latin name is Taraxacum officinale. But it's also called pissabed, bitterwort, dude head clock, priest's crown, wild endive, lion's tooth, blowball, and pissolie and pisonly. The only danger that I know of with dandelions is a warning not to use them medicinally with a blocked bile duct. So only you know if you've got a blocked bile duct. Apart from that, dandelions can be used in many ways, and all parts of this most amazing herb can be used. So we're going straight on to the actions now. In Chinese medicine, dandelion tea is used in the treatment of mastitis. The recipe is simple, and I've included it in the prepare section. It's used topically on the affected area, and of course it is used cool, not hot. So that's on your boobs, so it's important. A popular saying tells us that the leaves of the dandelion benefit the kidneys and the roots are for the liver. And this is true, but it doesn't reflect the full scope of the things that this majestic and generous dandelion can do. It's diuretic, as many of us knew. I grew up thinking it would make me wet the bed, so I didn't dare touch dandelions when I was a child. Little did I know that this is a precious herbal property. When things are diuretic, they're helping you to get rid of toxins through your wee. Dandelions are so gentle that you can use them daily in the kitchen. Dandelions concentrate acetylcholine in your brain. This improves brain function. So you can get cleverer just by eating these freebies, which are so easy to turn into delicious foods as quickly as putting a frozen meal in a microwave. Dandelion is not just diuretic, it promotes the elimination of plasma cholesterol. It's a pancreatic regulator which aids your digestive system. It's a galactagogue, which means that it increases your breast milk, so it's great for mums of newborns. It's a cholagogue, which means that it helps eliminate bile from the system. It's anti-rheumatic and a bile duct stimulator, which is why it may be dangerous to use if your bile duct is blocked. It stimulates portal circulation, which benefits your liver. It's a mild laxative and a urinary antiseptic. Just see what else we've got here. I think that's it. And then we go on to
agave honey.
Dandelion helps against eczema. It's a detoxicant and is choleretic, again encouraging bile secretion, and therefore prevents liver disorders. It helps in cases of an inflamed gallbladder and helps prevent gallstones. It will alleviate mild jaundice and clear up a yellow complexion and brighten the eyes. How lovely is that? It's good for indigestion and lack of appetite. It's effective against muscular rheumatism and hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. Dandelion may help prevent anorexia nervosa and also cachexia, which is muscle loss caused by an underlying illness. Dandelion may be useful also in other wasting diseases, so we call anorexia and cachexia wasting diseases. It may be of help in preventing congestive heart failure or edema of heart origin, edema or edema. I've heard it pronounced both ways. You can use it on warts by expressing the milky sap from the stalk and rubbing it straight onto the wart frequently. Dandelion improves the health of your spleen. It's also good for diabetes and anemia and is used in medical prescriptions to that end. Okay, and then we'll go on to the preparation. Okay, so it's very runny, but it has been quite useful. So it's dandelion and agave syrup, and I made it in July. And this one I strained. So what I did was got the goodness out of the dandelion petals, and it's very easy actually. All you have to do is just pull the petals from the plant, and then check for no bugs and everything, and then you can simmer them in water. So bring them up to the boil and then simmer them in water, very low heat, for some while. I mean, I did it, as I said before, I've got a better setup now, but I was using an electric ring which knew no subtlety. So I was either having to have it full on or off, basically. So I had to do it how I could. But on a normal cooker, I would just bring them up to the boil and simmer them, say 15 minutes. It's going to be plenty to get the goodness out of them. And then strained the petals and then mixed it with the Garvey syrup. So it's far too thin. But I mean, it's for my purposes, it's great. I mean, it's the odd cup of coffee, sometimes a little drizzle on a bit of toast, and also to use wherever a recipe calls for sugar, I'll use this stuff instead, because I know the dandelion is going to be doing me a bit good, and the Garvey syrups are much nicer way to get your sweetness, mainly because I spent half my life thinking I was bipolar, and of course it was sugar, of course it was. And I wasn't particularly sweet-toothed, but by the time you've had coffees and this, that and the other, well, I say I wasn't, sometimes I was, and you know how you waver through life. But certainly in the middle of quite a hectic life where I found myself going for a second cup of coffee, quite a strong coffee, and having this high activity job, I cut the sugar out right in the middle of that, and replaced it with the Garvey syrup, and I felt great. I wasn't as cutthroat. There's this anger that goes with, I mean, that's the coffee thing as well. But calmed everything down. I don't know what I looked like as a businesswoman after that. But I was a teacher. I wasn't ever a businesswoman. But certainly I think I developed a more mellow kind of mood about everything. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the actions of the dandelion. So in Chinese medicine, this dandelion tea that I've been talking about is used in the treatment of mastitis, cold, not hot, I hasten to add. So this simple recipe can be used topically on the affected area, and so mastitis can be relieved at least by some dandelion tea used topically. We've got a popular saying that tells us that the leaves of the dandelion benefit the kidneys and the roots are for the liver. And this is true, but it doesn't reflect the full scope of the things that this magnificent herb can do. So generous, the dandelion. It's diuretic, as many of us knew. I grew up thinking that I shouldn't even hold a dandelion because it would make me wet the bed. And of course, this is reflected in these names, this piss a bed and pissolee and pissolee and all that sort of thing. Which makes me wonder, because dandelion leaves actually are eaten quite a lot in France, where they're blanched. It's a particular kind of dandelion, or they just look after them particularly well, but they get massive leaves for use in salads, and they blanch them to take a bit of the bitterness out. But then, of course, the bitterness is kind of what you want when you're going for a dandelion. There's a lot of goodness in that bitterness. Yeah, and the fact that they make you wee, they're a diuretic, and it's a precious thing. It's getting rid of toxins. Of course it is. That's what comes out in your wee. It's stuff you don't want in your body. And dandelions are so gentle that you can use them daily in the kitchen. They concentrate acetylcholine in your brain, so they improve your brain function. So you've got a total freebie to make you cleverer. You know, mums should be feeding their kids this stuff. And you can, you know, if you can, that's how easy it is. I'm no great shakes with recipes. I mean, I do get a bit... Unfortunately, a lot of the recipes I'm trying out aren't going to be on this ABC because I'm kind of using what's come in the garden. And so, you know, we're not going to be looking at the stack of lemon verbena I've got behind me, Herbally, this time, because I've got another L that I thought was more important, or I wanted to include more. But yeah, this is how easy it is to get a bit of dandelion into your kids. And into yourself, of course. Yeah, it's so easy. And then you can stick that in a sponge, you know, make a sponge cake. You can make anything with the stuff. You can bung it in a bit of ice cream. In fact, I think if you drizzled that on a bit of ice cream, your kids would be clamouring for more. And it's got dandelions in it. It's great. Yeah, so it's not just diuretic. It promotes the elimination of plasma cholesterol. So really helpful. It's a pancreatic regulator, which aids your digestive system. It's a galactagogue, so it increases breast milk. So so it's really good for your boobs. It's not only going to cure your mastitis. If you drink the stuff, it's going to increase your breast milk and probably keep that clear so you don't get the mastitis in the first place when you're breastfeeding. I got mastitis with my third child, and it started this horrible chain of events because I wasn't an idiot. I just didn't know any better. I kind of knew antibiotics, and I would never go running for every 5 minutes for antibiotics. But I thought it panicked me because I was scared that my baby wasn't going to get fed. So I wanted a cure right quick, took antibiotics and gave my baby the most horrible thrush, and then had to bring him back from that. I mean, I was good at that bit, just wasn't good enough at refusing the antibiotics that was offered in the first place. So yeah, I could have been using lovely dandelion syrup, or dandelion tea. It's a cholagogue, which means that it helps eliminate bile from the system. It's anti-rheumatic, and it's a bile duct stimulator, which is why it's probably dangerous for you to use if you've already got a blocked bile duct. You want to be using dandelions before you get to that stage. It stimulates portal circulation, which benefits the liver, and it's a mild laxative and a urinary antiseptic. It helps against eczema. It's a detoxicant and is choleretic, again encouraging bile secretion, and therefore prevents liver disorders. That's why this is part 2 of dandelion actions. The reason we stopped is because my tablet ran out of battery. This sort of thing is going to happen, and I'm sorry. I'm not the slickest, most professional. However, if every time I make a mistake like this, I start again, I'm going to lose all my spontaneity. I'm telling you stuff that I won't even be able to remember after I've said it. Certainly not enough to put in next time I do it. Do you see what I mean? So please bear with me. I'm sure I'll get better. It's all getting there. I'm not doing the same. I'm not making the same mistakes that I was making when we were doing alfalfa. So it is moving in the right direction. Okay, so dandelion helps in cases of an inflamed gallbladder and helps prevent gallstones. It will alleviate mild jaundice and it will clear a yellow complexion and brighten the eyes. How nice is that? So, you know, if your child or yourself, you're looking a bit yellow and your eyes look a bit dull, just get some dandelions into you before it gets any worse. It's good for indigestion and lack of appetite, as we've mentioned. It's effective against muscular rheumatism and hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. So it will bring your blood sugar up to where it should be. Dandelion may help prevent anorexia nervosa, interestingly enough. Certainly worth a try if you see a member of your family going that way, to just give them little tonics of dandelion tea with something nice in it, of course. And cachexia, which is muscle loss, which is caused by an underlying illness. Dandelion may be useful also in other wasting diseases, which just means, you know, when people are going downhill, maybe you can't pinpoint it, like cachexia is muscle loss. So anything like that where people are just kind of looking degenerating a little bit. Maybe of helping preventing congestive heart failure or edema of heart origin. You can use it, so edema is a swelling, so you can get it in your legs quite often. And quite often it can be to do with the heart, because the heart affects the circulation. You can use it on warts. You know, the milky sap that you get out of the stalk is really good on warts. You just use it straight on the wart and do it frequently. I've just got rid of a load of warts. I've still got one left, but I've got rid of them on my knees and my elbows. Don't know how you feel about warts, but I felt like I wanted rid. Trying to remember what I used now. It was an essential oil. Oh, tea tree. Yeah, tea tree oil. Really good to get rid of your warts. But here we go. So I was spending money on tea tree oil and I could have been using the sap out of the dandelion stalks, apparently. I've also heard you can put gaffer tape on them. Don't know how you feel about that. But I think it's mainly because it just blocks off all the air and light. And I think warts like a bit of air and light to survive. So other people say it's really not necessary to get rid of them at all. So dandelion improves the health of your spleen. It's also good for diabetes and anemia, and is used in medical prescriptions for exactly those reasons, the diabetes and the anemia. So certainly worth checking out. Okay, that's the end of the actions. We're going to go next to how to recognise or grow. You don't need to know how to grow dandelions, but how to recognise them, and a couple of tips on that. Hi everyone. So today's herb, D for dandelion, is I adore it. The more I get to know about it, the more I adore it. We've got dandelions on our backdrop as well. So the Latin name is Taraxacum officinale, but it's also called pissabed, bitterwort, dude head clock, and that's not dude, that's D-O-O-D, not D-U-D. Dude head clock, but very interesting name. Priest's crown, which is kind of, you can visualise that with its flower head. Wild endive is another name. Lion's tooth, which is the translation, of course, of the French, Dandelion, the teeth of the lion. Blowball, self-explanatory about what it does. Pissenlit, which is again from the French piss the bed, or pissenlit, which is the same, piss the bed. So it gives us fairly good clues about what to expect in a way from dandelion, but it doesn't even half cover it really. The only danger that I know of with dandelions is a warning not to use them medicinally with a blocked bile duct, and you'll see why later as I go into the actions. That becomes very clear as to why. Apart from that, dandelions can be used in many ways, and all the parts of this beautiful herb can be used. So it's truly a fabulous herb. Okay, we're going to go on straight to the preparation now. These are my papers. This is from my book, as if you've been watching so far. It's and they'll be up in between, separating each kind of department. But yeah, so the preparation, you can make a tea from dandelion leaf by infusing 3 to 4 teaspoons in 1 cup of boiling water. So of course you can make a pot. I mean, that's just the measurement. You don't have to be amazingly accurate, and I tend to put things in. So if I feel the need for a dandelion that morning, that will go in my ordinary cup of tea, which I keep threatening to show you, and I will. But yeah, all sorts of things that I think are quite good for me at the moment go into my teas every day. And it's more always about sustaining my good health rather than trying to. I mean, also that's not true, entirely true. It's also building myself up when I've been quite ill. Normally quite hard-wearing old bird, but a couple of times in the last few years I've fallen ill quite dramatically. Not to do with COVID. And when the appropriate herbs come up, I'll tell you about my experience with that. But to do with other illnesses, and my cups of tea every day are a real integral part. That and my smoothies, of making sure that I get the stuff that I actually need to be eating rather than just what I fancy. We're very in the West particularly very driven by our desires rather than our needs, and sometimes of course it's lovely to eat chocolate pudding all the time, but you know how you feel when you've eaten too much of it, and that's your body telling you that isn't right. I seem to have developed more of a Norfolk accent as I'm talking about the herbs. I think it's because it makes me feel very grounded and, in the gardenish. Okay, so the dosage given here is if you want to adhere quite strictly, and I don't blame you for wanting to do that, especially when you're first starting out with herbs. It's really a good idea to stick to the rules and then find out what works for you in amongst it. None of this is written in stone. This is only other people's, albeit very well educated people have collected this knowledge. I'm also going to give you a list of some of the people that are a really good idea to read. But part of the reason I'm doing this is for those of you who haven't got time to plough through herbal books, for those of you who quite like to just have it explained a little bit before you get to that stage, and to show you as well how simple it is, as well as how beneficial it is. Okay, so we've got our dandelion leaf. Infuse 3 teaspoons of that to 1 cup of boiling water. So I guess a pot you could double the teaspoons or even more, for 15 minutes. Now I haven't got a choice here. I guess this is for the fresh herb, but either way, in between 3 to 4 teaspoons, and you'll soon per cup rather. You'll soon know that after your 15 minutes, whether you've got you'll know with dandelion tea, it's quite strongly tasting. So I would give it a go. Give it a go. It's quite shockingly bitter. But know that you can put this 3 to 4 teaspoons in a pot with 3 to 4 teaspoons of hibiscus or roses or something, or lavender even's quite nice, or mint. Most people have got mint in their garden. I quite often put a bit of quite a bit to make it strongly mint if I'm not sure about the taste of a herb that I'm trying. I mean, I've got kind of inured to it. It's a cup of tea, dandelion or anything else isn't going to upset me that much. I think the only one that really upset me was I tried some Indian neem tea, and that was a bit too much for me. But almost anything that you can grow in this country, I think I can quite easily. Half to 1 cup when needed. So you don't need much of this stuff, but again, you judge it. If it makes you feel better, the first cup you have, and then after a couple of hours you start to feel worse, then you have another little cup. If it doesn't make any difference, then either up the dose or say it's not for me. But I would give any herb, stay with it for quite a while, to let it do its thing. And remember, when you're not going to the doctors, you're not getting a pill to take the pain away, you're not getting a pill that's going to mask any symptoms. What you're getting is a change of lifestyle, which will help protect you against some of these things that you have to go running to the doctor with. And dandelion is certainly one of them. My God, I've got thousands in my cupboard at the moment, and I will, in the next section, I will show you one thing that I've made from dandelions. Okay, so then you've got your root, which gives itself up more readily to a decoction. In other words, you've just got to do it for longer. You can't just infuse it in a pot for 15 minutes. To do the root, you use a teaspoon to a cup of water in a pan, gently simmer it for 15 minutes, and then drink half to 1 cup again when needed. So the decoction really is leaving the thing in while you're cooking the water, and keeping it going. Whereas the tea obviously is just like when you make any cup of tea, the leaf infuses into the water. You can also juice the root, and use it sparingly. It's going to be really bitter. Honey, if you use honey, agave syrup I tend to use for a sweetener. And they're saying 1 to 4 teaspoons 3 times a day. When I say they, this is a lot of what I'm telling you now is from quite a long course I did. I ended up with a diploma, and that's where I've got most of my information and several other books. I'm going to show you one of them at some point, talking about the dandelion. But yeah, several books that I've been studying for years and years. So yeah, you can make, which is why I'm confident. I'm not confident because I've done a little course online. I'm confident because I've been using these things and educating myself about them and watching how other people use them in different countries and in England. And studying what other people do. So yes, I am confident, and I've never been disappointed. I wouldn't waste my time. I wouldn't waste my time if I didn't know that I can be confident about this stuff. Okay, so you can make dandelion coffee by roasting and grinding the roots. I haven't done that yet. But now I've got an air fryer, so that's changing my life a little bit. I've been more confident, I think, about doing it in an air fryer. I don't want to make all the effort and then go and overdo it a little bit and spoil it. Do you know what I mean? But I'm sure I know people who have done it. You can drink the coffee freely and you don't have to worry about the dosage. You can use the leaves like spinach or in salads, and again, you don't have to worry about the dosage. You just get this stuff into you. The bitterness of dandelion can be a bit off-putting, but as I said, it's very easy remedied by putting something nice and sweet in the tea with it. And what I'm going to show you at the beginning of the next section of this, the actions, I'll show you a little dandelion syrup that I made. Okay, so to recognise dandelion, well, it's easy to spot. I think nearly all of us know what they look like. The leaves grow in a basal rosette, which means they go in a ring around the base of the plant, and each flower grows on a separate stalk, as do the leaves. And this is one way to tell dandelions apart from the several lookalikes, loads of lookalikes. But that's the rule, is that the leaves grow in a ring around the stalks of the flowers, and the flowers each have a separate stalk and each leaf has a separate stalk. The flowers are yellow to orange and composite, which means they're made up of several individual flowers. If you look closely at a dandelion, it's loads and loads of little flowers, a bit like when you look at a sunflower. The dandelion also has fluffy spherical seed heads. Is the clock, the dandelion clock that we all know. The leaves can be between 2 inches and 16 inches. The only time they're smaller than that is when they're growing between the pavement cracks. It's such a resilient plant, they'll grow anywhere. The flowers are between 3/4 of an inch and 2 inches wide, and the leaves are lobed, you know that shape. More so when the plant is in the shade. or depending on type. And they do say that for salad, the less pronounced the lobes, the better. So the more pronounced the lobes, we would expect them to be more bitter. But as I said, you can blanch them just by tying brown paper around them. Will blanch them, and that will take a lot of the bitterness out if you really can't bear it. I mean, myself, I would just chop them up really small and have like a couple of, if you're doing a salad for 4 people, 4 big dandelions or 8 small dandelion leaves would be plenty, and chop them up really small and they'll hardly be noticed. Okay. Leaves are mainly green, but can have a purple or red tinge, and the midrib of the leaf is always a lighter shade. And if you snap the stalk, as we've said, it will release this white latex sap. So that's another way of recognising them as well. Where they're going to grow is in a chalky, loamy soil, and they especially like lawns, as we all know, and much to the chagrin of many a gardener. But people are beginning to understand, and we'll go into the permaculture next, and you'll see a little bit more how precious they really are. They also grow well by road size and on waste ground. They're perennial with strong tap roots, and they flower between April and October. So next we're going to go into, as I said, the permaculture. So when I wrote here, bow down in respect and awe to the regal dandelion who blesses our lawns and roadsides in the summer, I wasn't just being sentimental to their brightness and beauty. They're truly a generous plant that truly graces us every year. Firstly, they're an indicator of a lack of calcium in your soil. And then they bring the calcium that your soil needs so badly. They see that your soil is compacted, and their big taproot punches through the soil and decompacts it. As well as being a medicinal hero in the kitchen, the dandelion can be used as a nutritional vegetable, as we've said, and the young leaves especially are good, and if grown in the shade, are not too bitter. Dandelions are the first bee food. So here we go into real permaculture. They're the first bee food of the year. And our first greens, in the spring. If it wasn't for supermarkets, I think we'd all be eating dandelions and be glad of them. Dandelion's long taproot earns it the title of a dynamic accumulator, and we said this about alfalfa as well. So it brings precious minerals from deep in the soil, including the calcium we mentioned. If you really need to remove a dandelion, you have to get the whole plant, especially the root, otherwise they're going to come back. And they will come back. Okay, so every year when you're mowing your dandelions or pulling them out or whatever, all the time those dandelion seeds recognise a lack of calcium in the soil because you won't leave them there to do their stuff. You're going to get more. So the only way really to get rid of dandelions is to let them do their thing. And eventually your soil will have enough calcium not to attract them to grow there in the first place. I hope I've made that kind of clear how that works. Because it's an important attitude to have, and it's quite a hard one. We've got it so ingrained in us for years and years to get rid of these pesky dandelions, and they were so maligned in the past that we've got it stuck in us somehow. It's almost like I don't know, some of our religious albeit many people have gone past the stage of religious, but we're still actually behaving in quite biblical ways, not in the best biblical ways. And it's like with this stuff, it's so ingrained, and if we could go a little bit further back, we would see that they were respected. Of course they were respected. When people are hungry, they know what to respect. It's because it's not a bad thing that everybody's got enough to eat, but it doesn't make us the cleverest people. We've got a little bit silly. And this idea that I spoke about of eating, a little bit of what you fancy does you good, I think was the saying. And of course that was the saying when a little square of chocolate was really hard to come by. And, you'd maybe get that once a week if you were lucky. And of course a little bit of what you fancy does you good in that respect. But we can walk into a supermarket now and just get anything all the time. And so that saying's turned on its head, really. A little bit of what does you good should be what you fancy these days, I think. Sorry to preach. If you really need to move your dandelion, you've got to get the root out. And there's, of course, would be the time to harvest the roots to make your coffee. I'm going to have a go. You can get some nice little tools. I've done it with a fork and a trowel. You can do it. It's not hard. You just have to have a little bit of patience. But I'm going to get myself a nice little, one of those tools that dig right down, lift the root out whole and start roasting them, because it honestly is so good for you. I don't know whether I'll particularly drink coffee, but I'll manage to put it in something, I'm sure. Okay, so that's the permaculture. We're going to go next to the science, to the phytochemicals. So dandelions, phytochemicals. So we've got boron, choline, calcium, I pronounce it lecithin, I think, potassium, carotenoids, sesquiterpene lactones, and vitamins A, B, and C. So boron is a non-metallic solid found in leafy green veg, like kale and spinach. It helps metabolize vitamins and minerals, and it's important for bone health and affects estrogen and testosterone levels. So precious stuff. But readily available in kale and spinach and your dandelions, the leaves particularly, I guess. Choline is a basic compound in potatoes and cruciferous veg. So we're talking about Brussels sprouts, broccoli and cauliflower. It's also in meat and dairy products, as well as in nuts and seeds. So in lots of stuff. Really precious. It transports lipids to the brain and the nervous system and is essential to regulate memory, cognition and mood, as well as muscle control, mobility and heart health. So it's affecting almost everything, but particularly memory, muscles, heart. Choline boosts the metabolism, helps in pregnancy, protects against cystic fibrosis, for example, and helps maintain a healthy liver. Choline is a precursor to molecules essential for cell structure and forms a membrane around these cells. Some choline is made in the liver, but most comes from food. It is similar to a vitamin, vitamin B6, but is in fact is known as an essential nutrient. I think formerly it was called vitamin B6, but now they've recognised it as an essential nutrient. Don't know the science and lack of science behind all that. So, calcium is a chemical element. It's an alkaline earth metal and is reactive. Calcium helps to build and maintain strong bones, to help heart function, and the same with muscles and nerves. So all these things, liver, muscles, nerves, heart, are reiterating all these things. So all these separate constituents of dandelion combine to make it so precious. You couldn't get this by isolating one of these things. You know, you can take your calcium supplement, but it's not as effective as taking something that gives you a little bit of everything that you need. I mean, tell me by all means if and why you think I'm wrong, but the symbiotic relationship between the constituents is as precious as the properties of each constituent, more precious, I should say, than the properties of each constituent in isolation. I think that's how I will put it. Calcium helps to build and maintain strong bones, same with muscles and nerves. It probably protects against cancer and diabetes and prevents high blood pressure. When I say it probably protects against cancer, this will mean that scientists in the field have noticed that it seems to do some good. Now, what has happened, especially with the complete herb, but also to an extent with each chemical element, that's such as calcium, they are usually only tested in isolation, and especially when we come to the actual whole herb, lab tests and extensive testing on dandelions will not have happened much. And this is where I will always fall out with the pharmaceutical companies, because it was their doing that these things weren't tested. They didn't go into their studies with a genuine wish to know the truth about these things. They went into their studies funded by people who wanted to make a lot of money. And so the results are never going to be the same. They're not going to give dandelion a fair shot because it's so available to all of us for nothing. It's the last thing they want, is that everybody's going to make themselves a little bit better with a dandelion. Okay, so it probably protects against cancer and diabetes and prevents high blood pressure, yeah. Calcium promotes healthy communication between the brain and the body. Calcium is present in dairy, pak choi, figs, soybean, broccoli, dark green leafy veg, loads of things. It can be depleted by lack of vitamin D and magnesium. So make sure your vitamin D levels are up and your magnesium levels are up. Magnesium is one thing that nearly all of us are lacking. I've really appreciated this. And now make sure I get plenty of magnesium in things like lovely, I do cacao drink. I make my own oat milk, which costs next to nothing. It's very, very simple as long as you've got a blender, electric blender, and doesn't contain the oil that you have to pay for. I think about £1.30 for a carton. So mine's, honestly, it's. I get 3 dessert spoonfuls of oats. I get a little bit of you remember the little syrup, little teaspoon of that. And sometimes I put salt in. Sometimes I'm a little bit vulnerable to salt. So I will take it easy on the salt. And a couple of drops of vanilla essence, and it makes a lovely milk, and it's perfectly adequate. I mean, you know, it's not going to immediately satisfy somebody who's just come off dairy, but for me, it's perfectly adequate for a lovely drink of raw cacao, nice chocolate drink before I go to bed, and it's massively full of magnesium. So yeah, so lack of so your calcium can be depleted by lack of vitamin D, lack of calcium, or too much sodium. So watch your table salt. Isn't going to do your calcium levels any good. Right. Lecithin is a mixture of fats. It's found in egg yolks, but also in sunflower seeds, soybeans, and also fish. It's helpful to improve liver function. Again, you see how these things will work together, and to prevent a fatty liver. It helps to reduce cholesterol and inflammation, and to prevent dementia. It reduces inflammation, it helps healthy digestion, and helps prevent gallstones and encourage weight loss. Okay, potassium is a very soft silvery metal. Its presence in spinach, legumes, chard, avocados, watermelon, tomato puree, pomegranates, sweet potatoes, coconut water, butternut squash, beans, etc. And it lowers blood pressure. So you've got one thing here. Was it choline? One thing here that brings up, stops you're getting hypoglycemia. Can't find it now. I thought it was the choline. It might have just been in the whole dandelion. Might have been that. You'll have to go back if you really want to know. Somewhere I said what it was in, and it's been repeated here with the potassium. Where are we? Lowers blood pressure, prevents heart and kidney problems, lessens anxiety and stress, and increases muscle strength, and improves your metabolism, your water balance, and electrolytic functions. Now, electrolytes carry an electric charge which help maintain bodily functions. So that's what electrolytic functions are. Potassium is very beneficial to the nervous system. Carotenoids are yellow, orange and red, so they're what give the dandelion flowers their colour. They are fat-soluble pigments which give colour to tomatoes, carrots and autumn leaves. Carotene is a carotenoid found in carrots. Carotenoids are antioxidant and reduce oxidative stress and are essential for eye health and sight. So it was never a lie that carrots help you see in the dark. It was perhaps an exaggeration, but not a lie. They improve cognition again, maintain skin health, prevent some cancers, and support lung, heart and bone health. Vitamin A aids vision and eye health, contributes to a strong immune system, to healthy skin and to healthy mucous membranes. Vitamin B is water soluble. It's important for cell metabolism, which means the going on inside the cells, the movement inside the cells is the cell metabolism. So they metabolize what is inside the cells. And the synthesis of red blood cells for skin health and energy. The B vitamins are a group of 8 essential nutrients. Vitamin C heals wounds and reduces scarring. It boosts collagen and immunity. It aids iron absorption and improves skin condition, and it's good for the heart. Vitamin C prevents colds and macular degeneration, which is the degeneration of your middle vision. Prevents gout and cancer. It helps bones and cartilage, general eye health and anemia. It helps prevent anemia. It's an antioxidant and good for brain function and condition. Sesquiterpene lactones are defined as sesquiterpenes with a lactone ring, mostly found in the Asteraceae family, including asters, daisies, chamomile, dandelions. They're also in the Umbelliferae family, including carrots, parsley, celery, and magnolia. They prevent neurodegeneration, which is the process of losing structural function of tissues or organs. They're beneficial for the brain. They're analgesic, which is mild painkiller, anti-migraine, sedative, anti-tumour, antimicrobial, and they work against cytotoxins such as toxic metals, chemicals, microbe neurotoxins, radiation, venom, etc. And they are anti-inflammatory. So that's your phytochemicals. We'll go on to the herbal. Okay, before I go on to my notes about the herbal law, I'm going to read you a little bit. There's beautiful books. They were given me by a lovely lady called Glynis. Thank you, Glynis. And they're called the Weed Handbook. It's all back to front. I'll maybe show you this again when I'm doing the tarot so you can write down, but it's the Weed Handbook book. This is volume 1, and it's the medicinal and magical uses of Connemara weeds by Terry Conroy, and it's gorgeous. So little bits out of this book about the dandelion. It says the dandelion is one plant that truly reveals the intelligence of nature and the interconnectedness of life. Despite being self-fertilizing and being wind-pollinated, the dandelion arrives in early spring to produce nectar for the bees to feed on as they awaken from winter hibernation. And it's this thing that I was saying about the generosity of the dandelion. It's a naturally altruistic plant and in need of our protection, now particularly because there are so many threats to the bees. Beloved of Bridget, dandelion is one of the first spring flowers to appear, and we can usually find it from in bulk, which is the 1st of February onwards. I think it is interesting to learn that Bridget kept bees in the other realm and is said to have brought their sweet honey to this realm to nourish us. Perhaps Bridget's bees also fed on dandelion. Furthermore, Bridget instructs us that the dandelion represents the light of the sun and therefore brings with it illumination for us. As one of Bridget's healing plants, dandelion offers humankind amazing medicinal and nutritional benefits. It would actually be quicker and easier to say what it does not do for us. So backing up that idea of... and the other thing with the... I'll tell you in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. And about the bitterness, I said the bitterness, it's all very well to go blanching them and makes the leaves nice for salads, but don't be too keen, because the bitter taste of dandelion, this is what Terry Conroy tells us, the bitter taste of dandelion is also responsible for stimulating the endocrine system or hormone processes. As such, it can be regarded as an adaptogenic herb, helping our bodies to adapt to the stresses and strains of our environment. Just watch how the dandelion, when it's mowed down, adapts to the height of the mower's blade and comes back on a shorter stem. Look how it fights its way through the tarmac, adapting to its new environment. The adaptogenic quality of dandelion helps us retain our energy and be better able to deal with stress. Wonderful. Yeah. Oh, dandelion can increase melatonin levels in the body, which leads to better quality sleep. And if made into a balm, it relieves rheumatic pain. We did say about rheumatism. The whole plant can be used as a tincture. And I told you, there's a simple thing about making a tincture. So half dandelion. So you can use the young leaves and the roots. And then to the top with vodka. So like half a dandelion, filled to the top with vodka, top it up after a couple of days if necessary. Leave it in the dark 6 to 8 weeks and give it a shake all the time. And then you'll have a tincture. The fresh young dandelion greens are known to improve tooth enamel. The flowers infused in olive oil for 6 weeks and then strained, and then you can make your beeswax for a rheumatic balm. Magically, dandelion is used for divination, and if buried in the northwest corner of the house, it is said to bring favourable winds. Metaphysically, the dandelion empowers the solar plexus chakra. It represents, again, it's unique in this, it represents the earth, the sun, the moon and the stars. So you have the green leaves of earth, you have the yellow flower of the sun, the seed head is like the moon, and the seeds blowing on the wind are like the stars, which is why I did the pictures that I did. As we said, is sacred to Bridget and balances true humility and true confidence. What a lovely herb. And this book's amazing. I see that she's written in here about horsetail as well. So we'll have another little look when we look at horsetail. It's another one of my favourite herbs. Okay, so yeah. So I've said here, the little picture illustrates the dandelion's important magical significance. Like its planetary ruler, Jupiter, it encompasses a huge expanse. In this, the heavens themselves, including the sun, the moon and the stars. Jupiter also relates to the kingly aspect of the dandelion with its golden mane of petals and its Dandelion, lion's teeth leaves. We're all familiar with the dandelion clock, and dandelions can also enhance psychic abilities according to herbal law, as well as aiding divination and promoting prophetic dreams. Its millions of seeds symbolise growth and transformation, moving on or travel, especially by air maybe, or leaving bad habits behind. You can think of something you'd like to leave behind and blow it away with the dandelion clock. The dandelion is famous for its resilience and persistence, which it gifts to us so generously when we need it. Remember the calcium that it gives to the soil when the soil needs it. And for humans, it's just a treasure, really. Dandelion is associated with Aphrodite because of her relationship to bees, so similar to the Bridget stories, or to Hecate in the underworld, maybe because of its long taproot and its shining petals like a light in Hecate's dark world. It belongs to the element of air and to Jupiter and is masculine. If you want someone far away to hear you, you can send them a message by blowing a clock. If you drink the root tea, you can contact spirits maybe, or the tea from the flowers to contact the gods. The herb is also used to make dream pillows, sachets and charms. In tarot, the dandelion may be associated with the death card, transformation and moving on, and the fool, travel and starting anew like the seeds. So we'll see. We'll have a look at our tarot afterwards and see. And I think particularly I'm going to look at the card of Hecate again, who has got quite a frightening persona, but I think Christianity did that. Like Hecate was the guiding light for people who were in the underworld. So we'll see what the tarot and the oracles have to say about Dandelion and Hecate, and of course the Fool and the Death card we're thinking of as well. And I think I might look up as well to see if so I have my homemade runes here, which I've never used before, but I'm waiting for a herb that has got a definite association in the runes. If I can just show you. They're just from my local beach, and I've just done it with a Sharpie, but they're nice to have. And I did used to know quite a lot about the runes, but of course I've forgotten it over the years. So when I moved here next to the sea, I made it one of my little ambitions to re-educate myself about the runes. Yeah. So I'll have a quick look and see if I can find anything about the dandelion and the runes. But if not, it'll just be the tarot and the oracle. Okay. So already I love this. I've just looked in my new oracle book. This one by Adriana Ayales. I did take it out for chamomile as well. So beautiful. The Herbal Astrology Pocket Oracle Guidebook. And I've just got the card out, the dandelion, and you can see Jupiter there. This is Jupiter. And this, of course, is Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. And this one, so this one, they say that in this book, they're saying that dandelion is a herb of the asteroids, and that's an asteroid. And this one particularly is Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which is why I'm so excited about doing this, telling you about the dandelion. So this generosity that I was talking about, this wonderful knack that dandelion has of knowing what we need and giving it to us, is right here. This lady says that dandelion in the upright position is the wounded healer and uses wounds as tools to awaken along a healing journey, and it's inner child healing. And reversed, it's the wounded inner child, inactive, rejected instincts, trauma and victimization. And the astrological ruler is Chiron and Jupiter. So the rest, the middle bit here, we've already talked about mainly. Yes. But I will read the rest because it's beautiful and relevant. So dandelion is a survivor. It has an extraordinary ability to withstand hardship and thrive in disturbed environments. Dandelion loosens compacted earth and grows deep tap roots that rejuvenate the soil, as we saw in our permaculture section. And this is what it does to the body and soul. It assists us in renewing, cleansing, mineralizing and adapting. In medical astrology, dandelion is associated with the Sun and Jupiter. It's primarily an alterative, herbs that gradually restore the proper function of the body, increasing health and vitality, and a bitter herb that works on the liver and the gallbladder. Chiron, also known as the wounded healer, was a wise centaur in Greek mythology who gave up his immortality to save Prometheus after he was accidentally pricked by a poison arrow, and learned that despite all his medical knowledge, he would be in pain forever. He ended up landing among the stars as a constellation. Chiron orbits between Saturn and Uranus, symbolically marking the liminal territory between Saturn, the third dimension and concrete reality, and Uranus, the fifth dimension, and the quantum mind, embodying the rainbow bridge between the inner and outer planets. In astrology, Chiron represents our deepest, most tender wounds that are most difficult to heal. yet it also marks where we hold our greatest gifts. So if you know about astrology, if you look for Chiron in your chart, the sign and the house that it's in will show you where you can best heal your childhood wounds, and become a healer for others. So Chiron's a really nice thing to look up in your chart. Yeah, so the guidance is Dandelion is here to remind you that you can thrive regardless of your circumstances. Take ownership over your wounds, find gratitude in the lessons, dive deep into the depths of your origins, and use your wounding to further define the purpose and healing you are here to transmit and share with the world. Don't let your pain define your personality, but draw from it for strength and purpose. Like Chiron, you are born from the seeds of higher order and intelligence. Embrace this great healing power you've been given and go beyond the outlined path. How beautiful is that? I love this little book. Okay, so the other two cards that I've got out to start with, and I thought I'd do it like this time. So I'm going to lay these three out, and then I'm going to clarify them a little bit more with cards underneath them. So we'll see how that works out. So the other two cards make sense to me in this order. I mean, nobody told me the order, but it makes sense to me in this order, and I'll tell you why as I read the meanings. So this is death, and it's elderflowers. And it's used for clearing the past, letting go of old ways of being, protecting oneself from possible karmic reactions to past deeds. It's about rebirth, the end of the old and the beginning of the new, and letting go of the past and things that are no longer needed. Well, as you let go of things that are no longer needed, you're then required as the Fool to make a leap of faith. And the Fool is, it can be used for lack of sufficient motivation and drive, a cold, deficient and weakened state, problems assimilating food and ideas, and personal support. And it can be about detached innocence, no responsibilities or cares, freedom to roam and enjoy, unfettered energy. So it's this moving on and travelling, and the seeds fall where they may. From the dandelion clock is the feeling that I get of this. It can, if reversed, the Fool can mean irresponsibility and carelessness and flightiness, extravagance and folly. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense, that this letting go of the old and the toxins that dandelion helps us rid ourselves of, so that we can go with this detached innocence into the new, the leap of faith that life is requiring us to make. Otherwise we get stagnant, unmotivated, all those reverse, if the Fool isn't brave enough or strong enough to make that leap of faith, he can end up in this stagnant, unmotivated kind of atmosphere. I think I'm going to stop it here because I don't want to go over time. So I'll stop it here and we'll come back and do the second half of this. Okay. So I had shuffled the cards already, but I will do another quick shuffle just for the moment. These cards don't require the author and artist of this card deck, which I'll show you in a minute. She doesn't deal, she or he, I think it's a girl, I don't know, Kim Krantz, it could be either, hardly matters. But they don't make any great meaning of the reverse cards, so I'm not going to either. in my Herbal tarot, the reverse is definitely this tarot. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you that either. I will show you every time because beautiful Michael Tierra and Candice Cantin, and they do show the reverse, so I show the reverse. I tend to go with what the author of whatever deck I'm using requires of me. Oh, and I was going to look at the Deep, Dark and Dangerous because of Hecate. Let me do that before I go into this other deck. Things never go as arranged with me. I'll just find it in the book first and then I'll know what I'm looking for. So yeah, Hecate I know is the goddess of the underworld. Hecate, yeah. There's number 21. She is. Because we did end up looking at her, I think, with chamomile. We'll put her down here. Maybe we'll put her quite like that series, so maybe we have to go down into the underworld before we can leave this stuff behind. Makes sense to me. And then you leap of faith into like a new reality or a new timeline, I think they say these days. And it was yes, it's Hecate. So Hecate is illumination. Seek and you shall find. Sometimes you need to travel through darkness to find the real treasure. Almost anything worth doing takes time. Move off the crossroads. It is time to make a considered decision. Keep your focus on your purpose. Do not wander off the path. The duality is darkness and illumination. For a long time, the so-called dark goddesses got a bad rap. People thought if a goddess was of the dark or looked a certain way, it was scary, then they were evil or nasty. The Christianization of certain mythos twisted many stories as well. In particular, those deities, usually female, who were perhaps magic makers, sorceresses, too independent or feisty, who were remade into evil and dangerous spirits. Stories of Circe, I think she's pronounced Circe, Kali, the Morrigan, Morgan Le Fay, and Medusa are examples. And so when we look at a complex figure such as Hecate, it is important to understand that paradoxically a dark deity can actually be an illuminator. When Persephone was taken by Hades into the underworld and Zeus and Demeter negotiated for her return, it was her friend the goddess Hecate who lit torches for her friend to guide her home. Persephone was allowed to return home for half the year, and she was guided through the darkness on her return by Hecate and her torches. From that time, Hecate became Persephone's guide and companion Propolos, serving or attending on her annual journey to and from the underworld. Similarly, in 340 BCE, the greatest general of the age, Philip II of Macedon, was ready to complete the attack on the Byzantines and their allies, the Athenians, after a lengthy siege over the walls of Byzantium. It was dark and a wet, moonless night, and Philip thought this would be the perfect undercover foil for a final push and surprise attack on the city. His troops prepared for an assault on the city and were very confident of success. Happily for the Byzantines, the patroness of the city, Hecate, favoured knights such as this too and was watching. As Philip's soldiers began forming their attack, Okay, where were we? Yeah, as Philip's soldiers began forming their attack, Hecate lit her bright torches in the inky heavens. This unexpected bright light awoke all the watchdogs of the town, and they began to loudly bay and bark. The garrison was awoken, and they foiled Philip's attack. This was the turning point in the siege. To thank Hecate, the city erected a special statue to her, referred to as the Lampadiphorus, the torchbearer. It was erected on a hill above the Bosphorus Sea to commemorate Hecate's defensive aid. Hecate literally carries a torch even though she stands in the opaqueness at a crossroads or under a moonless night sky. Yes, she carries a torch when she is striding through the darkness of the deep underworld. Yet she is actually lighting the way out for all of us. So that's Hecate, also associated with the dandelion, and I think it's this perseverance, helping, the wounded healer, Chiron, is exactly the energy that helps Persephone out of the underworld. So we can see how they're all tied in together, really, with the dandelion. And I have shuffled quite a lot now, these cards. I shuffled them loads before we even started, so they should be well shuffled. So put them down, make them into 3 piles, and then pick them up with my left hand. Give them a little knock, and we'll see what they have to tell us. So we're asking about this first card to start with, Dandelion, ruled by Jupiter, and Chiron, the wounded healer. Any clarification on the dandelion ruled by Jupiter and Chiron. Oh, I won't take those, that was silly, but this one, the Ten of Wands, I think that is. Is it the Ten of Wands or the Ten of Swords? I find it really difficult on this deck. Oh yeah, I was going to show you the deck as well. It's the Wild Unknown. Just how to get it. Ah, there you go. The Wild Unknown Tarot Guidebook by Kim Krantz. And let's see what he says about the Ten of Wands. Yes, it is the Ten of Wands. So in the traditional deck, the Ten of Wands is like the burden of all these 10 wands that you're carrying on your shoulder. So it's a little different here, but it's still about burdens, blockage and difficulty. The Ten of Wands is a difficult card to face. Mental or physical burdens have been weighing on your spirit. Over time, this leads to hopelessness and depression. You simply can't get through to what you want. You cannot see the way. If this card appears in response to a personal situation, it may be best to simply walk away. But if this card comes up frequently, it indicates you are attracted to negativity. You choose to walk the hard road. Well, Dandelion will burst up through the hard road and shine her light. And there's a little light at the back of that Ten of Wands. I'll bring it in so you can see it all, sorry. There's a little light just shining here at the very back of that Ten of Wands. So you can put your burdens down and walk towards this dandelion light. And you've got Hecate for you to light your way. We'll see what we say about Hecate. Oh, the Empress. That's nice. So the Empress is one of the major arcana. And the Empress, she's the Queen of Queens. So she's all the queens in one, the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Hearts. What's the other one? Pentacles, Hearts and the Queen of Wands, all in one. So she's, yeah. And the Empress is about creation, nature. She's the mother of all, which is nice that she's come out with Hecate, Might look pretty dark sometimes, but she's here to light our way. So the Empress is the mother or the goddess of the tarot. Her energy encompasses all that is warm, fertile, creative and sensual in the world. Her strength comes from being gentle and compassionate and loving without binding. When this card appears, it's pointing to either a maternal relationship in your life or the side of yourself that wants to love more. The Empress also suggests it's time for you to reconnect with nature. Go outside tonight and find the moon. And we'll clarify the death card now. So remember, the death card comes along when you need to leave things behind. Okay, some cards fell out there. There's far too many. I'm not going to take all of them. Just 1 or 2 cards, please, for death. Again, too many. So yeah, you know, transformation, the end of one thing, the beginning of another, which is why it's so pertinent that the Fool comes after death. So a bit of clarification. Do we need a little bit of clarification for the death card? It's not going to give us anything there. Okay. Okay, so and the Fool, the new journey, when we're thinking about the dandelion, it pops up anew every year, especially where it's needed. And it's the star. That's lovely. That's a nice one to end on for dandelion. So the star also is one of the major arcana. And it's hope and peace of mind. And it's that, you know, when you see that yellow flower, the same as you see Hecate in the underworld, the light in the underworld and the light at the beginning of spring and the first food for the bees and the first food for us. Hope, peace of mind. Standing outside on a dark night, you gaze up at the stars and sense glimmers of wonder and hope. Even though you can't find concrete answers to life's many questions up there in the sky, you can't help but feel comforted and renewed. Such is the energy of the star card. It is not about actions or situations. It is simply about connecting to the part of you that is hopeful and serene. This force will bring light back into your life and infuse you with positivity. So all the way through the light, and remember we were saying about how the dandelion embodies all the parts of the cosmos. And here we've got the stars. You know, when we were talking about the seed head of the dandelion looking like stars when you blow them away, and it's so pertinent to this Fool with his leap of faith, his new journey and travelling on, moving on to pastures unknown. Yeah, lovely reading. Well pleased with that. So next time, please forgive all the little stops. I had to, the video was stopping itself. So I had to just go with that. These things are going to happen, as I said. Next week is E for echinacea. Okay, bye.